Hi, welcome to Grannie Charlotte's Adventure Stories. Today we're on Chapter 2 of Little Pilgrim's Progress. But before we start reading, we have some vocabulary words. So our first word for the day is obstinate. Obstinate is the name of one of Pilgrim's friends. Obstinate means to be stubborn and not willing to see things any other way or maybe just a different way. Obstinate. Our next word, which also is a friend of Pilgrim's, is pliable. Pliable means someone who changes their mind easily or often. Pliable. And our last word today is slough. A slough is like a swamp, very muddy, very weedy, and the water's just kind of dirty. That's our word, slough. Let's get reading. Some of the boys were playing near the gate of the city, and they saw Evangelist speaking to little Christian. They were not surprised at this, because they knew that the strangers from the celestial city always talked to the children, but when Evangelist turned away and little Christian began to run across the plain toward the wicket gate, they all wondered where he was going. "Little Christian is running away," cried one. "He must be going to look for the celestial city," said another. "Then he will be lost," exclaimed a third. "We ought to go after him and bring him back." There were two boys named Obstinate and Pliable who knew little Christian very well. They were older than he was, but the three had often played together. Obstinate was not a pleasant companion, for he loved to have his own way, and Pliable used to give up to him for the sake of peace. Little Christian did not care much for either of them, but he liked Pliable better. These two boys were vexed when they saw their little playmate running alone over the fields, for although they were often cross and disagreeable to him, they did not like to think of his being lost. "We must make him come back," said Obstinate. "What a stupid boy he is to believe everything he is told." "Come along then," said Pliable. "I will go with you." So the two boys went off, and as they ran, they shouted to little Christian to wait for them. But the child was frightened when he heard their voices and would not even look around. "If they take me back," he thought, "perhaps I may never be able to get away again." He ran as fast as he could, but he soon began to feel tired because of the burden upon his back, and Obstinate and Pliable were taller and stronger than he was, so before long they overtook him. "Where are you going?" cried Obstinate. "I wonder what you mean by making us run after you in this way." "I'm going to the king's city," said little Christian. "Won't you come with me?" Obstinate laughed. I should think not. What would be the good when we are as happy as possible at home?" "We should be a great deal happier with the king. His city is more beautiful than this, and we shall be quite safe there. I have told you before that our own city is not a safe place." "As if you knew anything about it," said Obstinate. "Why do you talk such nonsense?" "It is not nonsense. It is written in my book." Then Obstinate laughed again. "How many times am I to tell you that your book is full of rubbish? There is not one word true. Now are you coming back or not?" Obstinate looked very cross, and little Christian's heart began to beat faster and faster, and he answered bravely, "No, I am going to the king." "Well, you may go then," said Obstinate. "Come, Pliable, we might have saved ourselves the trouble of running after such a silly child. He doesn't know when he's well off." But Pliable stood still. "Don't you laugh at him," he said. "Just supposing the book is true, he will be better off than we are." "I think I shall go too." "Oh, do come with me," said Christian. You do not know how happy we shall be when we're living with the king." "Are you sure you can find the city?" asked Pliable. "Yes, for Evangelist told me what to do. We must go to that gate beyond the plain, and the man there will show us the way." "You don't mean to say you are going," said Obstinate. "Why, even if there was a celestial city, 2 boys like you could never find it." Pliable did not answer, but he made a few steps forward by the side of little Christian. He had often listened to the words of the strangers, and he thought, "I may as well go as far as the wicket gate and see what the road is like." "I'm not surprised at little Christian," continued Obstinate, "but really, Pliable, you ought to have more sense. Just come back with me, and I'll not tell anyone that you were going." But Pliable was not very fond of Obstinate, and he felt pleased at the idea of having his own way, so he answered, "It's no use talking. I've made up my mind. Goodbye, if you won't come too." "No, thank you. I'm glad to get rid of you both." And with a mocking smile on his face, Obstinate turned back towards the city of destruction. And here's our picture of Obstinate and Pliable and Christian heading on his journey. "Now," said Pliable, when the 2 boys were left alone, "tell me what sort of place this celestial city is." "It is very beautiful," replied little Christian. "Have you not heard the strangers talk about it? The king lives there, and his people never feel tired or unhappy. They wear shining clothes that can never be soiled and never grow old." "I don't suppose they will let us in." "Oh, yes, they will. Evangelist said so. See, he gave me this." And little Christian unfolded the king's message and let Pliable read the words for himself. "The king sent that to me that I might know he would like me to go to his city." "Oh, he hasn't sent me one," said Pliable. "You didn't meet Evangelist, but never mind. I'm sure the king will be pleased to see you too." "Well, tell me something else. What shall you do when you get to the city?" "First of all, I should like to see the king, and if he is very kind, I shall ask him where my mother is. You know, she went away when I was a little baby, and sometimes I have wanted her so much. One of the strangers told me that she was with the king, so I think she must be living in the celestial city." "I wonder how long it'll take us to get there. Did you ask Evangelist? We might walk a little faster, I think." "I wish I could," sighed little Christian, who was tired already. "I'm afraid I shall be a very long time on the way. It is this burden which is so heavy that it makes me walk slowly." Pliable was just going to say, "What do you mean by always pretending that you have a burden to carry?" when suddenly his feet sank deep into the grass, and he saw that he had walked into a marsh that lay in that part of the plain. "Oh!" cried he, "where are we now?" "I don't know," said poor little Christian, whose burden made him sink deeper than Pliable into the soft green mud. "Let us try to get out." But the boys were frightened and confused, and they could not tell which was the way out of the marsh. It was called the Slough of Despond, and it was a dangerous place even for grown-up people. Every step the children took seemed to lead them farther into it, and at last Pliable grew very angry. "See what a mess we are in," said he, "and it's all your fault. I wish I hadn't come. If this is just the beginning of our journey, what else may we expect on the road? Just let me out of this horrible marsh, and I shall go straight home again. You may look for the city by yourself." Little Christian did not answer, for he was too frightened and unhappy and too stuck to speak. His clothes were covered with mud, and every moment he feared that he would be smothered in the slough. How he wished that Evangelist would come to help him, but he could not see anyone near to him. Far away across the plain shone the light above the wicket gate, and behind him lay the city of destruction. Pliable turned away from the light and at last succeeded in getting out of the marsh. But he never stopped to help his companion, and when little Christian looked back, he saw him running home as fast as he could. Oh, how desolate the poor little boy felt when Pliable was out of sight. "But I will go to the king," he said, and once more he struggled on, trying to find some firm ground. Then, when he was almost in despair, he heard a voice saying, "Wait a bit, I'm coming to help you." And here's a picture of the slough with help, coming to help. Well, that's all our reading for today. So remember to wash your hands, brush your teeth, and eat an ice chip. Today, I'm going to eat a lemon one. Now you go have some fun.